everybody. Welcome back to the Comedy Castle podcast. I'm Joel Fragamenti. Going to tell you what's going on this week at Mark Ridley's Comedy Castle, so let's get into that. And a little bit of an unusual show, but let's tell you what's going on this week. We got a great show on Wednesday with Jen Fulwiler. She's been at the club before. She did a one-nighter. I believe she sold it out. So, again, get your tickets for Jen. She's a best-selling author. She has toured the country. I interviewed her back on show 138, and you can listen to that if you want to know more about Jen. But she had this amazing story where she thought she was funny. She rented out theaters, and what do you know? She made it work for her. We had a great talk. I really like Jen a lot. So that's Wednesday, March 12th at 7:30 p.m. Diego Atanasio opening it up. Diego's a good guy, so you got a funny comic. It should be a great show on Wednesday night at 7:30 p.m. And then the Sklar brothers come in for 5 shows, starting on Thursday the 13th at 7:30 p.m. Friday and Saturday, of course, 7:15, 9:45. Those are your Friday the 14th shows. And then Saturday the 15th, 7 p.m. and 9:30. Tickets always go quickly for the Sklar brothers. Famously, I missed the Sklar brothers. I interviewed them and was having surgery. That was a little over a year ago, right? January 24. And sad that I missed it. Unfortunately, I will also be missing it this week because I'm going on my honeymoon, because I did just get married. Thank you for those who reached out or attended the wedding. We can talk about the wedding for a little bit, but the Sklar brothers are coming. I heard it was great. I'm not even going to see it this time. I will have that interview with the Sklar brothers that I did last year at the end of this show. So if you listened to it last year, you don't have to listen to it, but we're going to do these things differently, because I'm going to tell you everything that's coming up for the next couple of months here. So let's turn the page to next week, okay? All right? That is because of the honeymoon, I don't think there's a show next week either. So I'm just going to run down the following week. And that would start on Tuesday the 18th, the 101 Comedy Class Showcase, the beginners, with Bill Bashart, his class. They always do a nice job for you. That's at 7:30 p.m. And then we've got Emily Catalano coming in for one night on a Wednesday. Emily's been on Conan. She's gone viral all over social media, and she has a single show there at the 7:30 p.m. on the 19th. That's a Wednesday. Emma Stevenson and Brett Hayden are opening that show, and they're very good, so you should go to that one. And then Matt McCusker is coming in that weekend, 2 weeks from this week, on the 20th, 21st, and 22nd. There are 2 shows each night for Matt McCusker. I believe the tickets are very, very low for all of those, if not sold out for some of them. I know that 10 p.m. Let's just go to the showtime, 7:30 on a Thursday the 20th, and the very special 10 p.m. show that was just added. We've also got a 7:15 and a 9:45 for you on Friday the 21st, Saturday the 22nd, 7 p.m. and 9:30 with Matt McCusker, of course, Matt, known for the Matt and Shane Secret podcast with Shane Gillis. And he's been on Shane's show Tires, which is a very funny show. If you want to watch a funny sitcom-type half-hour thing on Netflix, man, that Tire show is very, very good. But Matt is a comic in his own right and very popular dude. So we got 2 Thursday shows. That should be a blast. Johnny Mockney opening those, and Johnny's a funny dude, like Johnny. So, yeah, Matt McCusker, if you want those tickets, get them soon, because they're not going to be around for long, I don't believe, for Matt McCusker. So that's in 2 weeks, and I don't think there'll be a show that week. As much as I'd like to talk to Matt, I do have my my honeymoon. I did get married. What was that? March 1st, Saturday, March 1st. Had a really nice time. Bunch of the comedy community came out to support me, so shout out to everyone from comedy that was there, as well as my friends and family. They came up, but, we had Bill Bashart, Sal D'Amelio, Bob Phillips. Should I name them all? I'm not going to name them all. We also had Josiah Jones, who you might know from this show. He was the officiant. I interviewed Josiah last summer as a fun show, and he did a great job at the wedding, and we're excited for the honeymoon. So that's in just a couple of days. So I'm trying to get all this out. But in lieu of a new interview for you, I'm going to play that Sklar Brothers interview from last year, which was very entertaining. They were remember them doing pickup, school drop-offs. I think they were doing school drop-offs when we talked. It's like a three-way call. It was fun. You never know who's who. They told me to figure out who's who. I didn't know who was who. But we'll play you that in a minute. But let's just tell you who's coming up this year. We haven't really ever done a show like this. We're always trying to get you to come back for this week. We want you to tell you what's going on this week. How about we tell you what's going on this year at the Comedy Castle? I went through the calendar. I went through the schedule. And I found some highlights, some shows that will almost certainly sell out and that you should really want to attend. And if these people have been interviewed, I've interviewed a few of these people. And we'll try to get interviews with all of them. But we'll see how we do there. One that always sells out is Jeff Allen. He's coming in Sunday, April 6th. Jeff's one of those guys, he's old school. This might be a show you want to come out with mom and dad who might be getting up there in age because they'll enjoy Jeff Allen. He talks about the way things used to be, and he's very entertaining, one of the nicest guys. I really love Jeff Allen. That's Sunday, April 6th. And then one of the all-time, if you ask Dave, the manager at the Comedy Castle, say, Dave, who should people come see? They've never been to the Comedy Castle. He's going to say, come see Ian Bagg. And you can do that April 25th and 26th. I talked to Ian on show number 138 of this podcast. But Ian is awesome. He does some crowd work. He has a great act, tons of energy. And people come back every single time Ian is at the club because he's just that good. So that's only no Thursday with Ian, just Friday and Saturday. Drew Lynch, speaking of guys who sell out, May 8 to 10, we got Drew Lynch coming in. Drew of America's Got Talent fame. Famously was a stutterer. He had a brain injury and stuttered. You see Drew Lynch do comedy now, not as many stutters. He's really, but now he's, if he was a gimmick, if you got into the Drew Lynch gimmick, let me tell you something. Drew Lynch is a great comedian, and I complimented him face-to-face. We had some nice talks backstage, and his comedy is really sharp, really top-notch. I'm a big fan of Drew, and those shows sell out. So May 8 to 10, you got 5 chances to see Drew Lynch. Again, all of these tickets, comedycastle.com, all of these shows we're talking about. Wednesday, June 18th, School's Out. This is a special, a sort of entertaining teacher show. Now, anyone can come. So if you're a teacher or you know somebody that's a teacher and you want to see something funny, come see all these teachers and former teachers that are funny, that are local to our area, including folks like Jason Phelan-Myers, who was at the wedding. Thank you, Jason. Ella Horwadell, another student of mine. Tim Finkel, who I recently interviewed on this show. Aria Moody was a recent student of mine. I think she's popping on for, I guess, a guy named Mark Molig puts a lot of this stuff together, and he's on the show. And a lot of really funny teachers. That one always sells well. I think the last one just about sold out. So this one almost certainly will sell out. And you got to get on that one June 18th. That's a Wednesday. Saturday Night Live's Michael Longfellow joins us on June 26th, 27th, and 28th. I interviewed Michael on show number 149. I was watching SNL 50. He had some skits on that. I saw Michael last night on SNL having a drink thrown in his face by Lady Gaga. But we're going to see Michael June 26th and 28th. He had a very funny stand-up act, too, Michael Longfellow. And how about one of the best guys in comedy who I can't remember if he's ever played at Mark Ridley's Comedy Castle? Pete Holmes comes in on the weekend of July 17th, 18th, and 19th. His television show, Crashing, was one of the funniest and most accurate shows about stand-up that I've ever seen. So that's Pete Holmes. You got to come see Pete. That one's also hot ticket. Pete Holmes, never been here. July 24th through the 26th, we've got Sean Patton. Now, Sean would come through the Comedy Castle as a young comedian. We knew of him. We loved him. We thought he was very talented. And recently, I think in 2024 it was, the TV show The English Teacher on FX was on. Sean had a role on there. It's about a guy teaching English. And it's like, I don't know if it's the high school he went to. He ends up being an English teacher, doesn't really want to teach, but he ends up being a teacher. And you have the whole high school vibe. Great show. Sean Patton was the gym teacher, and he's great on that show. And so it's exciting to have Sean back. If you know that show, The English Teacher, you're a fan of it. It was on FX. It was voted one of the best shows of the year in the polls. I remember reading those and going, yeah, I like that show. It was on FX or Hulu. If you got the Hulu, check out The English Teacher. It's a good one. But we got Sean from that show, Sean Patton. And Doug Stanhope for one night, October 1st, the legendary Doug Stanhope. When I got into comedy in the late 90s, when I started not doing it, I started doing it. I was always into comedy. But one of the all-timers was Doug Stanhope. That was the guy that everyone said was the king of comedy back then, and he's continued doing his thing for all these years. So it'll be exciting to have Doug at the club. I don't know if Doug's ever performed at the club. I don't know that he has. But again, hey, what a great chance to see a guy who's, legendary. And it's a club he should be playing because it's a legendary club, legendary comic, October 1st, Doug Stanhope. All right, I'm going to be quiet. I'm going to be quiet now and let you listen to me talk to the Sklar brothers. Again, we did this a year ago. They are here this weekend. They got 5 shows. Tickets go quickly for this one. I do remember being told which brother was which and address the questions to one brother or the other. I did a very poor job of that. You'll hear that on here. But I did like the Sklar brothers. There's definitely affection, I think, that you'll hear in my voice with these guys. And again, just circumstances. I was going into surgery the week of the Sklar brothers. I am now going on my honeymoon. I guess my life's turned around a little bit, right? Hey, why not? But anyway, let's just play this. Here's the Sklar brothers. We'll be back to wrap it up after this. Here you go, guys. All right, ladies and gentlemen, on the other end of my line, what a treat that I get to talk to the Sklar brothers today. Randy, Jason, welcome to the Comedy Castle podcast. How you doing?
Thanks, great. Joel. How are you, buddy?
I'm doing well. It's this weekend coming up, the Comedy Castle. Yep. This may be the Comedy Castle debut of the Sklar brothers. Am I wrong about that, Randy?
You are wrong about that because when we were in college at Michigan okay. From 90 to 94, we performed. That was the first place we got paid.
Oh wow!
To perform.
Okay.
Which was
we hosted a Monday night Best of Detroit showcase show, and that was the first time we got paid $50 to split.
We thought we were millionaires, literally. And which, by the way, $50 in 1993 or 1994, that is worth at least $65 today. So.
Well, I think, I don't know. I have not hosted a show for money at the club in a while. It may be the same money now, guys. But
it might be.
Not for headlining, not for what you guys are getting, no. That Monday night. You guys got Thursday, Friday, Saturday to rock the house.
Thank you. We are very excited to come back. So it is a homecoming for us. And, of course, we've seen Mark himself at the Just for Laughs festival, and I just love the guy so much. So to be able to come back, it's just the greatest. Yeah,
Mark is one of the real good guys who enjoys comedy, loves watching the show, which is, club owners, how they get, where they're just like, yeah, this guy's not around or he's here or there. Like Mark watches the shows and enjoys comedy.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, you could tell his love for you have to love it. If you're going to do it this long and continue to have an A room in this country, you got to love it. Yeah. You have to love it because it's not an easy business.
Yeah, so. 45 years this year.
Amazing.
Comedy Castle.
Amazing.
45.
Incredible.
Yeah. That's great. All right.
I mean, he's been around so long that the club is going to go through a midlife crisis, get divorced, and buy a Porsche.
Yes.
I don't know if we're at that point yet. I think people still discovering the Comedy Castle after 45 years, which is great. It's a great place to be.
Love it.
All right, well, let's start, Randy, your origins. Ann Arbor, you're at University of Michigan. Whose idea was it to do stand-up comedy? How did that start for you?
So we had done it in high school. Imagine 2 kids, we've done it in high school in St. Louis where we grew up. And then we got to Michigan. We started doing it at the university as part of the U Club, which was a university kind of sanctioned club thing. And we were doing it once a month, and then started doing it a little bit in Ann Arbor at the Ann Arbor Comedy Showcase, which we've come back to many, many times. Roger Feeney, one of the great guys in comedy as well. And love that dude.
How many years did it take you to figure out Roger?
He is. Oh, God. He's the toughest, most stoic 140-pound guy you'll ever meet.
We made him cry. We made Roger cry.
Oh, my goodness.
Yes.
Yeah, during the pandemic when, everybody was having a hard time. Specifically, places that relied on live performances for your income and for your how it goes. We did a benefit for him and raised some money so that they could pay the rent for a couple months and got him through. And now it's still thriving.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, it's still there.
Great guy. And our ties to the university, having done stuff, and having been visible people out in the world of entertainment on TV and films and stuff, like we reconnected with the athletic department, and Jay and I this is so great. We got to host the pep rally at USC, which I don't know how many sports fans. So first thing we say, we get on stage at the Galen Center at USC. This is for the Rose Bowl. Yeah. And we were like, it's great to be here at USC. It's great to be at the Galen Center, the house that USC built and then gave to Reggie Bush's parents. Why are we going after them? Why are we going after them?
Oh, and then we said, everyone's excited we're here. Everyone is excited we're here. We just got off the phone with Mel Tucker.
He was very excited.
He was breathing so hard.
Really hard.
Was he on the Peloton? I don't know.
I don't know. We let him finish and then we
let him cook.
Let him cook. It was very fun.
Yeah. So, the Ann Arbor Comedy Showcase doing that thing. And then, and another thing, I got all these questions. I'm trying to time all together. Sports. Sure. I mean, you guys are so ubiquitously associated with the world of sports, professional sports, college sports. Where did this start? Was this an idea that you had that you would have a sports sort of an inroad into that world, and that would be a thing that would carry you through your career?
I mean, Jay, you can take that.
Yeah, no, I mean, we were always big sports fans. And obviously when you go to the University of Michigan, you become an even bigger sports fan. We grew up in St. Louis. So Cardinals, we were Cardinals fans. We were kind of football. Randy, are you out in the woods? What are you doing?
I'm out in the no, I'm out in the wilderness. I'm just having a walkabout.
Okay. So we were big sports fans. And then our buddy who was the editor-in-chief at ESPN, the magazine, someone we knew from St. Louis growing up, and who was a fan of our comedy and just someone we sort of a mentor really in this business, Gary Belsky, he pitched a show to ESPN Classic, kind of like, is it Dinner and a Movie or is it Mystery Science Theater 3000? We're not quite sure. But we just need two hosts to host it who have good chemistry and love sports. And then we were like, oh, that's interesting, Gary. Why aren't you asking us to do this? And he was like, oh, I didn't know you'd want to do a show on ESPN Classic. And we were like, yeah, we'd like to do a show on ESPN Classic. And so, he pitched us as hosts. We came into ESPN, a huge meeting with all these people. We pitched all these ideas for what the show could be. And we had a good idea. And I think they felt like they were in good hands with us, and we delivered. We did what we said we would in that very first meeting. And that show, it ran, even though it was on ESPN Classic, it ran for about six years. They reran it from 2003 to 2010. We made 77 episodes. We really focused on making it comedy first and sports as the backdrop. I think that's the mistake a lot of people make when they want to make a sports comedy show. They'll just be like, hey, it'll be kind of like a funny sports show. And it's like, no. It has to be a comedy first on the same level as, Conan and The Daily Show and Chappelle's Show and all that stuff. Hopefully that's what you should aspire towards. And then sports is the backdrop. So you have to pass the muster and the test and show that you know your sports, but really you got to make this as good as any comedy on TV. And so we did that, and we felt like we succeeded. We got to make this show we loved. And then that's how we were brought to Jim Rome. Yeah. We got to know Jim Rome, and we started guest hosting his radio show 10 times a year and got to know that whole audience. And Rome just let us do what we do, which is just be funny and try to find what's funny about sports. Anytime, if Yao Ming is starting his own wine company, you're like, we're going to talk about that for 20 minutes. Yeah. I mean, that's more fun for us to talk about some weird thing like if Baron Davis believes in ghosts. We're going to talk about that for 20 minutes instead of running down the NFC East. It's just more fun for us. And that's sort of always been our niche within the world of sports, is to find out what's funny about sports. And that, for us, became this place where we built this little, industry.
and there isn't a lot there. I mean, our buddy Jay Moore is fantastic in terms of understanding sports and being able to create comedy about it. And there are other people who kind of do it, but I mean, Norm Macdonald was incredible, and rest in peace. He was one of the best people to be able to merge those two things. And so, but it's a small group of people.
Yeah.
So the fact that we kind of live in that era was a good lane for us, and has, people really love that.
Yeah. Well, sports fans don't give you any credibility unless you know what you're talking about. You really have to.
You have to. And so, like, again, we love it.
Yeah.
Sports is a great escape for us. You know what I mean? Jay and I will watch golf. Jay and I are watching like the Phoenix Open Waste Management Classic, and we're like, they're not drunk enough. Somebody get these guys drunker. I want to see this. This is like a bachelor party gone wrong, where golf is like at the center of it. It's like if you at your bachelor party invited Tiger Woods to be there. Yeah. Well, that would be a bad idea because he'd probably go home with the stripper. But the point is. That's what it was, and we enjoyed it. And so, like, again, the fact that we're, like, watching that stuff and enjoying it, and that's what we do kind of to unwind, it's great. But I will say this, what's cool about it is, obviously, we know a lot of sports, and we tap into that, but that's not the only thing that our stand-up is about. In fact, it's only a small part of our stand-up, if at all. I think our stand-up kind of focuses more on the human element, certainly us being parents and that life and the parenting life, which for some reason, it's really funny. The more we've gotten truthful about how hard it is to be parents, the more it connects with even non-parents. Yeah. People out there who are just like, I don't want kids. And we're like, yeah, you're right not to want kids, because kids will hang losses on you all day long. All they do is hang L's on you. And so like we'll bring our lives to the stage, what's truthful to us. And that's been really, really connected. This last hour, this most recent hour that we're doing for us feels like the most true to ourselves, the most connected with audiences. It's been really fun to do. We can't wait to come do it.
Right. Well, we're looking forward to it. I mean, it's definitely when you're a parent, that is something that and you have. Everyone's either been a kid or has a kid. It's the most relatable thing in the world for anyone. And I always give advice. I teach comedy classes at the club, and I go, if you talk about things that people experience, that's what's going to hit. That's what's going to make you popular.
That's a great point. And then the trick is, and the really great comedians talk about things that people experience, but do it in a way that's uniquely their own. And, Jay and I have a style of, a two-man comedy. There aren't a lot of teams out there.
Yeah.
People ask us what's the best part about being a comedy team, and we say it's that we get to split the money.
Yeah, that's
terrible. Well, that's the worst.
Yeah, that's why I was going to ask that question. I remember getting started in comedy, and my mentor was a guy named Bill Hildebrand. He ran a club in Dearborn, Michigan, Joey's Comedy Club.
Yeah.
And neither the club nor Bill are still around, but here's...
okay.
But I said to him, I look on the wall at these clubs, and there's all these two-man teams. I said, why does no one do a two-man team or a trooper? He said, well, no one wants to split the money. I mean, that was the actual thing he said.
That's a very good point.
But
he's right. He was right.
Yeah. But one thing.
Go ahead, Jason. What we're doing is different. I'm just going to say, Joel, what we do is we love it because it's unique.
Yeah.
And it's very unique to the two of us being twins, that like we don't really talk about being twins on stage that much at all. We maybe mention it once. What we try to do is through our delivery and through our relationship on stage, which we open up so that people can see how we relate to each other. You get it. You get that we're twins. Like there's nobody else can do that. So it's interesting. You want to be unique.
Yeah. And I think one of the things that makes your act so funny, as I'm watching all these clips the last couple of days, is that as a comic, we try to do like set up, punchline, tag, maybe call something back from a previous joke. And with two of you, the other guy can do the tags, the other guys can do the callback, and it hits you so fast, it just makes it that much funnier.
Yeah, I love that we're doing a podcast now, because someone described our comedy to us as like listening to a podcast on 1.5 speed. You listen to it on 1.5, you're like, oh my God, it's coming so fast.
I do that.
It's great.
Well, comedy, they say that the best comedy should sound conversational. You're just talking to your friend. There's two guys, and you guys are having that conversation and bringing in the audience.
That's right.
It's a hit.
That's right. I mean, that's the thing that like people in the crowd, if you do it right, and this is kind of
Oh.
Cheap Seats on ESPN, is that Cheap Seats was interesting because people, and so many people came up and said, I feel like I was just hanging out with you on the couch. You know, like I was high, you guys were probably high. You feel like I was just hanging out with my friends on the couch. Well, so that's what you want it to be. The best comedians are conversational in that way on stage. And even if it's someone performing, like being more performative, like a Sebastian Maniscalco, he's still like, that's the way he talks when he's around his friends. It's maybe a little more amped up, but like, it's just, you want to be the closest to the way you are when you're hanging out, which makes audience members feel like, oh, I could do that. You know what I mean? There's this notion of like people just being like, I could do that. I was just helping you out, bro. I just wanted to talk to you. Jay and I are like, hey, man, there's already two of us on stage. We're not a sketch group. We don't need your help.
Well, and also what's cool, I think, with twins or with us, even seeing us on stage and seeing like this symbiotic relationship play out where we're finishing each other's sentences and we're connected to each other. There's a tiny piece of wish fulfillment in the audience of people saying, I wish I had a twin brother. I wish I had a twin sister. I wish I had someone who was on the same wavelength as me, or I wish my husband was more on the same way. I'm just kidding. No, but I really, I think what they are saying though is like, where they see a relationship in their lives, like my wife and I that's how we tell a story, or my best friend or my sister who's lives 8,000 miles away, but we still get on the phone and we talk like these guys. And so they see themselves in a relationship in their lives in what we do. And it is like this, there's definitely a feel good vibe that comes out of all of our shows, which is like, you're in this experience that's super fun and uplifting at the same time. You're laughed really hard and you had this fun experience and you leave the room feeling lifted up. That's how we feel.
Right. Well, Jay, tell me about developing material then. You know, comics, we sit down, we write things in a notebook. I mean, is it because there's two guys? Can you do this more organically, conversational? Is it hard to remember the material when you thought, hey, this is really funny, let's do that tonight?
Yeah, so that's a great question. We actually don't write anything down.
Okay.
We've never written a bit down, but what we do is we're kind of like a band. Like one of us brings in the kernel of an idea. Like here's a simple thing, and this might not even be a bit. But I was talking to my friend in Austin, Texas, and he was saying how hard it is at this age to like start a new exercise thing. And we both were kind of talking about that. I'm like, yeah, it's like you kind of just have to do the things that you do, even though now we need it more than ever. And we were just having that conversation and he's like, I'm doing Orange Theory. And I'm like, yeah. He's like, yeah, I threw up like 3 times. It's like too hard. And so he said that. And I was like, oh yeah, you're doing Orange Theory. I'm taking this new, it's like Orange Theory, this class. It's called Orange is the New Black Theory, where you go into a prison and you have to fight for your life. So first, and so then I told Randy that joke, and Randy's like, he says to me, first class I went into, I found the biggest person I could and I punched him in the face. Because I'm like, you know what? You got to be crazy if you're going to do Orange is the New Black Theory. And he's like, now I got to hang out with the Aryans and, you know, I'm making license plates, which is good for my forearms. I mean, and we just start making all these prison jokes. And, you know, I don't know if that's going to be a bit, but the way we sort of do it is the truth part of it, which is relevant to our lives, which we hope relates to people. That's the premise, is that it's hard to start new exercise things when you cross the age of 50 or when you're at 50 or whatever, when you've reached a certain point in your life, or when you're a parent, it's hard to find the time to start a whole new exercise regimen. And so if you're going to do it, you got to go all in. And so then my friend said that, I said this, and now we're into this thing. So I take that idea to Randy, and then the two of us bat it around. Then we have to figure out, how can we make this a Sklar brother bit? How can we create either an act out that involves the two of us, or something where we can bounce back and forth and one up each other? How can we, because it can't just be like one joke and then one joke and then that's it. So for us, there has to be either, like you said, like one upping each other with tags, which is really fun to do, or an act out where we are in a scene based on the premise of our sketch, or it just becomes some other thing where, Randy and I are now the teachers of the new Orange is the New Black class. We don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know.
That, or, there's something that I've always talked about like going to a hot yoga class with my wife. And like years ago, first time I ever went, and like the teacher is, this is just a loose strand that we've always kind of talked about, but have never really put into a bit. Maybe this is where we park this into that bit, which the teacher was like naming all the moves in Sanskrit. And it's like 110 degrees, and I'm like hallucinating, and I'm, got my face in the ass of a guy in front of me who's wearing biker shorts and his fat is hanging over it. And I'm like, I cannot function right now. And I hear her naming the moves and the positions you're in. And so she named one of them, and I thought she said Johnny Sharasana, which to me, I'm in a hallucinated state. I think this is the funniest thing ever. I'm cracking up in this class where you're supposed to be silent, because I'm thinking that the Johnny Sharasana is like the one guy on The Sopranos who tried yoga once,
right,
and his friends won't let him forget about it. They're like, hey, look at it, it's a regular Johnny Sharasana coming up here. Why don't you bend over and put your balls in my face? It's like, I'll put you in corpse pose. So like then Jay and I become the two guys who are giving the other guy a bunch of grief. And you're like, oh, okay, this is again, like Jay said, a little funny act out, and this happened to me. And so it's like, maybe we tie that to this is the reason why you shouldn't exercise. So now we just walk around our neighborhood. Yeah. And so like that might tie to another bit that we're doing. And so like you start to like put these things together, and because our stuff is a little more lengthy, and to be able to tie a few things together and to what we're experiencing in our life, it's kind of cool. I mean, that's how we build material in that way.
Does anybody ever do something where you go, I'm not a fan of that? Or they something you said, hey, we're going to drop this, and then the next show somebody starts into it, and you're just like, what do you do at that point?
You have to be pretty respectful. Truly, like if one of us is like, I love this thing, I really want to try it, we try it and it like doesn't go that well. And then the other person's like, the other one's like, forget it. Like, we got to drop this. Yeah. But the other person is like, no, I really feel strongly about this. I think the audience was wrong. Let's try it. And you try it one more time and it doesn't do well. So what you do is, if you're going to go that far out on a limb, get ready to get a ton of shit, like on the way back. You know what I mean? Like, because you will get so much, like if you're like, we want to try it again and it fails again, then like, the other you're going to live with the ridicule of that moving forward. Yes. And so we try and give everybody, if you feel really strongly about something in this duo of ours, the other person has to let it go. It has to let it run its course. And who knows, maybe that person was right. The first audience just didn't get it. And then you come back and you're like, oh man, that's doing great. So we kind of, both of us, we say this about our podcast. We do a podcast called Dumb People Town, and we do it with our friend Daniel Van Kirk. And I love it because we have funny people on. We just had Bill Burr on and Dulce Sloan on and Kathy Griffin. And basically, we bring up dumb like news stories that happen in the world of news, just stupid people doing stupid things. And when we're in the podcast, everybody has a steering wheel in the car. So if one person wants to drive the car this way, we all then sit in the back seat and the passenger seats, and we let the person drive. It doesn't matter. Everyone has a steering wheel. And that's kind of the way it is with me and Jay. It's like, okay, I'm going to take the car right now, and you have to sit in the passenger seat, and you sort of respect that.
Yeah, that's great. Because comics, we have that kind of conversation in our heads. We argue with ourselves about, did that work? Why didn't this work tonight? It worked the last two shows.
Right. Well, just trying to figure out.
So that is one of the benefits. Is like we are like a mini writer's room, in that we can bounce off each other, and then we also can like you're as a comedian, you're also like a true crime detective. After you do a show, you're like, why didn't that work? And if you have someone with you who experienced it at the same time, you can hash it out. You can be like, I think we just aren't clear on our setup. I think the jokes are funny, but the setup's not right. Or you say, I think we went too fast. Yeah, we need to beat this out a little bit more before we before we give up on it.
We're not explaining it well enough. Or you like bring in a forensic pathologist and you realize why did this bit die on stage? So you're literally studying like dental records and you're like looking into past histories of boyfriends and stuff.
Yeah.
And then sometimes you revive an old bit and you're like, oh, hey, it's a cold case. That's great. We brought this thing back.
Get to the bottom of it now. 5 years later. Here we go.
That's right.
All right. I want to wrap this up. I don't want to keep you guys too much longer. But you guys did a thing in Detroit a few years ago, I think now, if it was 1 year or 2 years ago. The Super Bowl commercial with the Bernsteins.
Amazing.
Love
the
them.
Detroit sports legends. Tell us about that commercial, what it was like. Kirk Gibson, Barry Sanders, Rick Mahorn, Darren McCarty, and you guys. It was terrific.
We got to call Kirk Gibson. Rand, we got to call Kirk Gibson today.
He's come to the club.
We do have to call.
Yeah. Kirk's been to the club.
He's the best.
Yeah.
I think he's gonna. If he's not in Florida, where is he? In Florida or Arizona? If he doesn't go down to where he's going, he's gonna come this weekend and see us. But so our friend Mark Bernstein, who we went to college with, he literally one of our best friends in life. Like he's been stood up in both of our weddings. We've stayed close with him for many, many years. We were on a trip with him in the summertime, and he's like, I'm trying to figure out a commercial for, a new Sam Bernstein commercial that, I'd call 1-800-CALL-SAM that's, funny and interesting and poignant. And we have this sort of relationship with these great, sports legends. And Jay and I were like, we were on like a long hike. And Jay and I were like, okay, we're going to figure this out. And Jay, to his credit, was like, I got it. And so we had the loose idea and we recorded it into a phone because we're like, we have to remember this. We don't want to forget this, speaking about like comedy and bits and stuff, because we're like walking. We just had a phone. We're like, okay, we're going to record this. And
I said the bit was, it's a trivia night. Yeah. And all the trivia is about each one of these Detroit legends who has, created such great memories for Detroit. Barry Sanders and Darren McCarty, Rick Mahorn, and Kirk Gibson. And so we talked about all their like legendary moments, and each time the trivia host, which is us, brings up a question, one of the other guys answers it for about the other person and beats them to the punch. And then they were like, and each time they're like, I was going to say that, it's about them. And then the last one is, about who's gonna take care of you from a lawyer perspective. And they say it all together, and we cut to the Bernsteins and they say we were going to say that. And really, it's just a chance to connect those guys with them. And, the Bernsteins are just a wonderful, amazing family. Like they've done so much for their community. We know them as just friends and people, but like, I know they've done a lot for Ann Arbor and for Detroit. And so we've known Sam for 30 years and Mark for the same. So we just love them. They're just great, great people. And they've been so loving and supportive to us. They're like family. So we were like, we'll come to town, hang with these guys and do these commercials with you.
And by the way, they were amazing. Like Kirk Gibson is like, he's got the most wicked sense of humor. Rick Mahorn, you think like Rick Mahorn, he's a bad boy. He's so self-deprecating. He's so funny. Barry Sanders, the nicest guy in the world. And Darren McCarty, who's like, I'm sure he's been on the stage at Mark Ridley's Comedy Castle. He's a storyteller.
Yeah, he tours.
He's a racket.
Yeah, he's all over.
Right.
He tours. I mean, and I'm just going to say this. 2 years ago, when Detroit drafted Aiden Hutchinson, I said, I'm going to become, because we've always sort of been tangential Lions fans. We just have been just by being connected. I'm like, I'm going all in this year because I hate the Rams. And the Rams ripped our hearts out as St. Louis fans by leaving St. Louis, and LA sports fans are the worst. And so we're like, I cannot stand I hate the Rams. I hate the Lakers. I'm going to root for Detroit. And all of our Detroit friends, when I said that before that year, they're like, don't do this to yourself. This will ruin your life.
Right.
You have the right, you have the ability to walk away. And I'm like, no, I'm doing this. And sure enough, they had a great end of the year. They didn't make the playoffs. And then this year was such a special year.
It really was.
They almost made it. I mean, you really got to give them so much credit. So for me, I say, look, I don't want to take credit for the Lions being good, but to all Detroit, The Sklar brothers jumped on the bandwagon, and look what happened.
You guys,
Look what happened.
it was an amazing year for the Lions, and hopefully next year will be even better. But who really knows?
Totally.
I don't know. All right, I'm going to get you out. I got to tell you one quick story about. It's actually about that Bernstein commercial. You guys filmed that at a place called Sneakers Pub in Ferndale, Michigan. Okay, and I want to let you guys know that bar is within walking distance of my house. And
No way.
yeah, that's true. And even better, this is even weirder. My home that I am sitting in right now was at one time owned by the owner of Sneakers Pub.
Let's
I
go.
love it.
Isn't that crazy?
They were so nice.
And
they were so nice, and that bar is so cool. Isn't that a great little bar?
It is a great bar. It's been there forever. And I got to say,
I feel like they could. I feel like they could do a comedy night there.
they could.
right.
Well, we've had comedy. That's another thing I want to tie back into Sneakers Pub. Is the first place I ever did stand-up comedy was on the next block, a place called Club Bar. They did a Thursday night open mic. It's the first place I went up, and I ended up hosting that show in the early 2000s. One of the guys that started at that club that I helped bring along is a guy named Nate Fridson, who's your feature act this weekend.
Our feature act.
Yes.
So Nate Fritzen's the best, and
Nate,
it's like we were in
He's
Ann
the
Arbor.
greatest. Yeah.
He's the greatest. He's such a good joke writer and a really good friend. And he wrote on our UFC show. We had him write on that. He's fantastic.
Yeah.
Knows his sports too, like huge sports fan.
Yeah.
Michigan State guy, proving Michigan State and Michigan people can be friends.
There you go.
And so we were paired up with him. Roger paired us up with him in Ann Arbor. And it's like, you get paired up with a feature act on the road. Jay and I like to bring our own feature acts, but you get paired up with a feature act on the road, and it's like a blind date.
Yeah.
You kind of like, I don't know whether this is going to work out, and they liked our profile, and here we are. I hope this person doesn't kill me on the way home.
Yeah.
You get it, right?
Yeah.
So you're like, we're watching him, and we're like, we'll watch the first, 2-3 minutes of his act and see if he's good. And then we stayed and watched the entire thing, and we're like, this guy is not only is he such a good comedian, he's such a good comedian for us. He sets the table so well. His premises are great. They're long and involved and interesting, and he's just got a great take on the world. And so we started taking him out on the road with us.
Yeah.
And when we found out that we got him back here for this Detroit show, which is just perfect. So got a local guy, very excited, but who's in New York doing his thing and being very successful. So we feel very honored. He's a headliner in his own right.
He is.
We feel honored that he's coming back and featuring for us.
Yeah, it's a nice thing. And my one of my former students, it is her first MC weekend this weekend with you guys as well. Megan Niesti. I think you're going to like Megan too.
I can't wait.
I can't.
I love it.
We're so excited, man. Let's fill this. Yeah,
Do
Randy
it.
and I try to give as much female energy as we can. But let's fill this club this weekend. Let's fill it. Let's show Detroit. Let's make this a big party. We can't wait. We're so excited.
Yeah. Well, I can't say it any better than that. Randy J, we're looking forward to it. Get your tickets over at comedycastle.com. Thanks again, guys. This was terrific.
Thanks, Joel.
All right, guys. Take care. All right, there it is. The Sklar brothers wishing me well on my surgery, which went fine. Well, if it went fine, did it go fine? It went fine. It was a long recovery, but it did go fine. Yeah, I'm much better than I was. So excited for them to come back, even though I can't be there. One day, Sklar brothers, one day. All right, guys, let's wrap it up. We'll tell you just real quickly, the comedy classes, always starting up at Mark Ridley's Comedy Castle. So if you're interested in doing stand-up comedy yourself, call the club at 248-542-9900, and they can sign you up. I've got my next advanced comedy class. If you've done the beginner class or you've been doing comedy for a while, that one sold out in January. The one starting in January sold out. This one that starts on March 29th is getting there. It's about halfway full, at least at this point. And so, yeah, call the club, 248-542-9900. I'll teach you all about comedy in 6 weeks and have a good time. Make you a real good comic, all right? All right, well, thanks for listening, guys. We're not going to be with you next week. I hope you enjoyed our little rundown of 2025 to this point. I was even told I meant to do this in the rundown. I was talking to Bill Bouchard last week and said, hey, man, who's coming up? I saw Stanhope. I saw Pete Holmes, these guys. He goes, oh, we got this guy. And I go, oh, I can't wait to tell people on the podcast this week. And, of course, it's not listed anywhere. So I think that guy who would be a repeat repeater to the Comedy Castle, a guy that is coming back, I believe, would be his second appearance. It hasn't been announced yet, but he's a big name, and he's super funny, and I think he did one of the most entertaining shows I've ever seen at Mark Ridley's Comedy Castle, and I hope he comes back. I believe he's coming back. We just haven't announced it yet, but when we do, you are going to want to see this guy. I'll leave it at that. I know that's a bad way to leave you, but that's how we're going to do it. I am out of here. I'm honeymoon bound, man. I'm so looking forward to that. And thanks to all of you for listening, and we'll catch you next time on the Comedy Castle podcast. Bye-bye.